I thought this was a great chapter because you see the unlikely duo of Sanji and Usopp working together and ultimately coming out on top, and I just thought it was great.
One Piece chapter 284. Sorry.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review, while I itch my nose, of the wonderful, enchanting, tantalizing tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us with, Jesus, it's like I almost haven't gone through puberty, that high-pitched thing that I had going there. Our last chapter saw us with, of course, Usopp and Sanji climbing aboard the Ark Maxim and splitting up. And at the end of the chapter, Usopp appearing and firing one of his killer Death Stars or whatever, really just kind of irritating Enel. But and then going, oh gee, sorry, and that's how the chapter ended. The chapter picks up right where it left off, and this chapter was great because although there were some really neat things that happened in it, action-wise and stuff like that, it was really almost centered around this comic relief type of element, you know? Usopp is always very funny with the stuff that he comes up with and says even in the midst of battle, and it's funny. Like I said, I truly just laugh, you know, when I read it. I smile, I can't help it. So Usopp goes in. He had thrust open the door, you know, from the cabin from the inside of the ship or whatever to go and fire that star. And so he's standing there with the door open, and he's just like, he goes and shuts the thing back up, right? And he's gonna hide and take off because he figures, oh shit, now I'm gonna incur the wrath of the god, you know. So anyway, then he goes and he has a quick moment of self-doubt over there. He's like, I can't do that, you know, and leave her by herself and whatnot. What the hell kind of man am I? So he goes and thrusts the door open and comes doing like these barrel roll flips out. And Enel is pretty much just toying with him. I mean, instead of just going and completely wiping him out with something. Plus, I imagine that he doesn't want to damage his actual arc too much, you know. So I'm assuming that he's pretty much just trying to deal with them in the least resistant, damaging way possible. At least that's what it seems like to me. So Usopp goes jumping, rolling out of the way, and gets up by Nami. And he's like, "So, what do you want me to do?" And she's like, "Idiot! I don't know. Help me! Aren't you here to save me?" He's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "What do you mean you don't know?" So he goes and he's like, here, we need to get off of this ship, you know, or she says we need to get off the ship, and he's like, are you crazy? It's, you know, how far down below it is, and she's like, you know what, there's island clouds, or these clouds, you know, all over around the forest. Hopefully we can get close enough one to where we can actually take the waiver, fly off the side of the ship, and actually land on one, right? And he's like, okay, whatever, so I'll distract you. First of all, he tells her to stand over by this electrical thing here. This looks like something that he wouldn't want to damage, so stand right there. And of course, Enel the whole time is just sort of toying with them, you know. And so anyway, so Usopp goes and he says, I'll distract him. And this is the part that cracked me up. So he goes and he's standing up there and he's just like, Usopp hypnotism. He's like, imagine a needle stuck underneath your fingernail. Imagine 5 canker sores in your mouth. And Nami's like, oh, geez, I can't even listen. He's like, do you want to die, fool? And he's saying all these things that would be like just like more annoyances than anything, you know what I mean? Kind of like salt on a wound, you know? Yeah, it burns, but is that gonna kill you? But just so funny how he goes about it. And as he's saying these things, Enel's approaching him, and as he gets closer, he just nails him, you know? And Usopp's blood goes flying out of his mouth, you know? And so he's beating him all over the deck, up and down, you know, Enel is. And again, it just seems like he's kind of toying with him. And he gets Usopp down on the ground, of course, and Usopp is laying there bloodied and broken, you know. And Nami gets on the waiver. She's managed to get to the waiver from the distraction, the few precious seconds that Usopp bought her. And she goes and she's like, Usopp, oh, hold out your hand, you know. And she's coming flying by on the waiver. And, you know, Enel's like, you'll have to get through me first, you know. And anyway, so as, you know, Enel's standing here and Usopp's, you know, laying here next to him, and she's kind of trying to come across and, you know, reach out your hand and I'll grab you and pull you up on the waiver with me. As he goes to reach up his hand, Enel takes his staff and just like and pushes his hand back down to the ground, and I'm like, oh shit, you know. So then he's like, L, and he's about to do his big L Thor thing, you know, which I imagine he has to. I'll see it in the anime because we started Skypiea just recently, so I'll see it very soon. But unfortunately, right now I don't know how long he actually charged. I'm assuming that he charges up for a couple seconds before he does this L Thor, you know. But he goes to charge up to do that, right? And then we go and Sanji comes out of nowhere and he's like, and at first I thought he kicked Enel, but then I looked, he kicks Usopp and kicks him up so he lands on the waiver by Nami, by the waiver, so she can pick him up so they can get the hell out of here, you know? And he's just like, yeah, get on out, you know, get out of here, right? So they go flying off and then boom, that Thor comes down, you know? We see that they shoot off of the thing and get away. They wind up coming by the big vine or what have you, the giant jacket looked like anyway, and there were some clouds on there, so it looks like they're going to try to hop off the ship onto there and then work their way on down, I'm assuming. So nonetheless, though, they get off. And Enel's just like, you know, well, just because that's not fair, just because you're not out of my range, just because you got off the craft doesn't mean that you're safe now, you know. And then Sanji goes and has, you know, kind of gets his attention, says, hey, I just wanted to say something to you, bud, you know? And then he's like, oh, by the way, thanks for the light. And he's sitting there, he lit a cigarette, and he's just completely burned and bloodied and broken, bandaged, and every other B word you can think of. But he's just standing there, just a wreck, man. It's great. And he's like, lights his smoke, thanks for the light, right? And he's like, so what is it you wanted to say? And he's like, drop dead. And Sanji just falls over and just cries. He's got nothing left, you know? He gave everything he had. So Enel goes and he's obviously pretty pissed off about this whole thing that's going on, but Sanji did go and distract him for just an extra few seconds, trying to buy him as much time as possible, so obviously Nami and Usopp can get away. So then it looks like as if he's going to go after or attack Nami and Usopp, you know, because nobody can escape the wrath of the god, and he winds up going, and all of a sudden he's right. And Sanji, now he got to the deck a little bit later than Usopp. They both took different paths, but going through the same ship. Sanji obviously stopped and sabotaged some shit on the ship because all of a sudden Enel's like, whoa, what's going on? He's like, I need to fix this first. So he's distracted and goes to fix whatever problems, and he's yelling, of course, at Sanji. You know, he's like, "What did you do? Why did you do this? You know, you can't thwart my plans." You know, and so he's pissed off now. He's been smacked around by Luffy a bunch, and really he's just getting bested. Mentally, it seems like one after another by several different of the Straw Hats. So I find it kind of funny, you know, to kind of just see his whole visage and his whole facade that he's this god crumbling around him. But anyway, so he kind of goes off a little bit to go and take care of that, and the chapter ends with us going and seeing looks like a grappling hook come over the side of it, and we just kind of see, you know, like a word bubble of Usopp, and he's just like, Usopp, hop. You know, so I don't know if Usopp's coming back on the ship so him and Sanji can try to take him out. If Usopp's going to try to pull Sanji off of the ship because now hopefully Sanji has got it to where it's going to crash. I don't really know. But definitely a very cool chapter. And really the comedic value I thought was great. So that leads into my chapter question. What are your thoughts on just, obviously the comedy is done very well, I believe, in One Piece. But what are your thoughts on a chapter like this, which is really like an action-heavy chapter, but it has this comedic undertone with the stuff that Usopp was saying and doing that really I was pretty much just smiling and laughing the entire chapter that I was reading, and then I went back and read it again just because I wanted to catch everything, you know, and read all the little jokes again. 5 canker sores in your mouth. Anyway, what are your thoughts, I guess, on Usopp's moments to shine, and then also kind of interjecting that comedy in there? That's my chapter question, brothers and sisters. Leave that in the leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation.
If you're a big fan of Usopp, Man with Big Nose, go over look at my Instagram, Facebook pages.